I'm Romina, and this is my friend Janelle.
Hi.
And today we are going to be talking about Cuba!
Yeah!
Fun fact, both Janelle and I are Cuban, and we both recently went to Cuba for the first time in our entire lives.
I went recently, and it's funny because I have so many friends of mine that went to Cuba, and I'm like, you're more Cuban than I am because you already went and I didn't. That's kind of how I felt.
Because of this, we are going to be talking about being Cuban and visiting Cuba for the first time, and kind of our impressions and what our expectations were and if they were met, and that's it.
Yeah, that's basically it. We're just gonna vent to you about our thoughts, what we, it's like you said, expectation versus reality.
The first thing that we are going to be talking about is
food! Yay! Oh no, it wasn't?
So excited.
I love food.
Cuban food is super delicious, and I'm not just saying that because
we're not being biased.
I know, but honestly, it really is. It's probably one of the best.
I think so too, yeah.
It's one of the best culinary adventures that you could ever go on. I grew up eating quite a bit of Cuban food.
Same, yeah. I mean, my mom doesn't cook, but when she did, your rice and beans.
The rice and beans.
The quick fix for us is rice and also like with an egg.
The plantains.
Plantains.
Ooh, with the egg.
Yeah,
the rice and the egg, yeah.
Platanitos.
Going to Cuba, one of the things that you have to do if you ever find yourself in Cuba is visiting the Paladares and getting a reservation there and eating there. So Paladares is just kind of a fancy way of saying restaurant. I mean, it's just like a gourmet Cuban restaurant.
And like the difference also too that I noticed is like most paladares are at their homes. They're actually they were homes before and they've turned their home into a business.
I actually went to a paladar that was an apartment complex turned into a restaurant, but it was still an apartment complex. So in order to get to the restaurant, you had to pass through people's apartments.
Oh my god, it's so cool.
As far as the food, because I had a pretty interesting experience where I didn't just have the normal rice and beans and the fried plantains. There was a lot of fusion that was going on, at least the restaurants that I went to.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you experienced that, but it just kind of, it gave me a different perspective on what Cuban food is.
Yes. So, and for me too, and even when it comes to the beverages, there's another thing called limon, it was like a limonada. It's like a lemonade, but it wasn't lemonade. I don't know. They made these tostones, so it's like the plantains, but squished, but they put toppings in it. It was shredded chicken and shredded ham, but I haven't had that before. So I think
this is making me hungry.
I know.
I think what was interesting about Cuba is that they have different seasons for the food. It depends on whatever they have available at the time. So sometimes they would have something on the menu, and then if you come back a week later, they won't have that thing anymore.
That happened to me.
Me saying oh, this was my favorite restaurant might not be my favorite restaurant, 6 months down the line, because they might not have the dishes that I like.
So I went to, she recommended this, and her mom, Ivan Chef.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a dish that we wanted that had chicken, and then we couldn't get it because they didn't have chicken that week.
Oh.
Yeah.
They actually had a really cool mango chicken salad thing.
Oh, wow.
That was inside of an actual mango.
Mango?
They cut it out. And
what?
Then, yeah, it was real fancy.
Your mom would be so upset if she found out I just had a salad. Who goes to Cuba and orders a Caesar salad? No, and a Caesar salad to top it off.
A Caesar salad?
Yeah, you know what happened to me is Cuba's very hot and humid, so I felt at the time I was I can't eat no more hot food. You know what I mean? I don't know. So we were in Varadero, which is about an hour and a half away from Havana. It was right by the water, so obviously fresh fish, and it's super cheap too. It was $7 and you get shrimp and fish and chicken. But I really wanted the shrimp, and then my friend got the same thing, and as I'm eating it, she's like, oh my god, don't eat that, it has caca inside. I'm like, what? Poop shrimp. So they don't clean necessarily, they don't fully clean their shrimp. The shrimp, and then it had the lime. It had the lime.
It had the intestine, the intestines was filled with poop.
Yeah. So just check your shrimp for caca poop shrimp. Tasted really good though. So you know what I did? Cause I was so hungry, I would cut around the intestines and eat the other half.
That cues us into the next topic, the people of Cuba. So I grew up surrounded by Cuban people, and I hadn't gone to Cuba and actually met, people in Cuba. The Cuban people are really, really nice, especially if you're not from there. They're ready to help you.
I mean, Cuba's been open maybe 2 years now, but it's has had foreigners come in and out of the country. They speak better English than Cubans in Miami. If you speak only English, you should have no problem. Everyone, for the most part, speaks English, or at least can guide you in the right direction.
Right.
Fun story. I got in a Coco taxi at night, and then we told him.
I got in a Coco taxi at night too.
So cool. You gotta do the Coco taxi. And we wanted to go dancing. He was so determined that we'd go to a good spot. He went with us. He just charged us to go to the place, and then he got off with us and partied with us. It was so cool. Yeah.
That sounds like he was a little bit too helpful. If you actually try to learn a little bit of Spanish before you go there, the people are also nice enough that they won't be ooh, it's this foreigner who's trying to fit in. They'll try to help you.
Yeah.
They
may giggle.
They might laugh at you.
Yeah.
But they'll try to help you and try to understand what it is that you're trying to say.
Of course, don't be super confident. There's always but that's in any country that you go to.
Yeah, don't always go
feel
dancing
super confident
with the Coco taxi
guy.
driver.
There's a Cuban saying, isn't there there's always un bicho malo. There's always a bad bug, and that happens in any country,
in any place. Yeah.
That maybe you shouldn't trust them because they'll try to mess with you.
Next thing we're going to talk about is expectation versus reality. Growing up Cuban, I had a lot of expectations of what the island of Cuba was like, what the people were like, what the food was like. I think one of the biggest things that was most shocking to me was that in my head, I just pictured Cuba as being small. I mean, geographically, I just thought it was,
small little island.
A small island. I was thinking about all the islands I had been to in the Bahamas, and I was comparing it to that, where it's you could literally walk from one side of the island to the other.
It's a golf cart, through the island.
And you can't even do that in Havana. It's Havana alone is like a country.
Yeah, I was there for 3 days, except the other 2 days I did day trips to other parts of Cuba. I regret it. I mean, I don't regret it, but I just want to go back because there's so much more to explore.
Yeah.
Didn't know how big it was as well, but then about a year ago, I made more friends that have been to Cuba, and they're like, oh no, if you want to go to such and such place, Santiago or whatever, you had to it's 4 hours away, or you have to stay over there. I don't have a lot of family in Cuba, so. I had one distant cousin that still lives there, so I didn't have pictures that I'd seen. Everything was a mental I came up with this idea of what I think it looks like, but it's not I had a lot of other Cuban Americans have family there, and they send them pictures and stuff like that.
I think that actually leads us into the last topic that I wanted to talk about, which was just overall talking about Cuba. And you brought up a point about family in Cuba, and the reason that I went to Cuba was to visit my family and to meet my family who I'd never met before. It was just interesting to see how they grew up, and my cousin who's younger than me, and the things that she's interested in, and how she lives her life compared to mine. I didn't have connections before, and now I do. And so now she has my email and I have hers, and we send each other stuff every once in a while.
That's sweet. I think the minute I landed, it was very, very nostalgic for some reason. I had been wanting to go to Cuba, but I had been waiting because I really wanted to go with my grandmother or my mom, and unfortunately, just due to timing and several other reasons, they weren't able to go with me. But there's this nostalgic that it's oh my god, these are part of my roots. What killed me is I really wanted to go with her because I wanted know where she would hang out and how she went to school. I did visit Rio de Almendrades. I think it's River Almendrades. I don't know how to say it in English. I told her that I went. She's that's where I went with my boyfriend. That's where I had my first kiss. I was oh my god, that's so cool. You know, and that river is beautiful. It's crazy. We're very blessed. I mean, at least I was very blessed to live in the home and grow up in the home that I did. But they're totally happy and with what they have. Right. You know, it's different. To see the conditions that they live in.
That's definitely definitely one of the things that we forgot to mention about people
Yeah.
is that they're just so happy.
Yeah.
It's not because they don't have like a choice or, you know, it's because that's just how they are.
Yeah, and that's just how it is. The country has been that way. Like when people said, look, it's like time stop for 50 years.
Yeah.
You know, so like they make the best with what they have, with the materials that they get.
Yeah.
I get it now. I get it why people like, especially in Miami, I didn't understand like why people bring like bags and bags. I'm like, oh my God, like they don't need that, you know? And it was funny, she told me, she's like, so at this point we don't need clothes. We need like actual materials to, like, in order to fix our homes and stuff like that. So it's interesting how like things are changing in the country and what they need or what they value.
Well, that's all that we wanted to talk to you guys about today. I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, then please give it a thumbs up and upvote it if you are on VidMe. And before you close this thing, be sure to head over to Janelle's channel where we are going to be giving you some tips for going to Cuba, like hotels,
versus Airbnb, what currency you should have, and
just
more.
Don't tell them anymore. They gotta go over there to go watch it.
Yes.
And if you haven't already, then please subscribe and follow me. I am at REDROMINA everywhere. I post videos every single week. You don't want to miss out on all that goodness, and definitely subscribe to Janelle as well. For now, we're gonna go. So I will see you when I see you. Bye.
Bye.
This video was made possible by my patrons over at patreon.com/RedRomina. If you like what I do, become a patron and be a part of the exploration.